Indian stocks turned volatile despite Monday being the D-Day for the start of the government's new GST cuts to key consumer goods. Tech stocks in particular were under pressure as U.S. President Donald Trump's hefty fee for new H-1B visas is expected to lead to operational difficulties for outsourcing giants. Trump's order on Friday requires a $100,000 fee for new H-1B applicants that will hurt the margins of Indian outsourcers who use the H-1B program to deploy engineers to client sites. The fee is likely to disrupt projects of outsourcing like Tata Consultancy Services, Wipro, and Infosys that derive a large chunk of revenue from the United States. India's $280 billion tech service sector is already grappling with sluggish growth. Consumers have cut back on technology spending due to geopolitical tensions and Trump's tariffs. The H-1B change is another blow and puts Indian tech giants' business models at risk. Toshi Jain from JP Morgan said, quote, "The relative price of hiring workers on H-1B visa is expected to increase meaningfully." Jain added, quote, "This is likely to force employers to increase the ratio of offshoring, nearshoring to onshoring and substitute H-1B workers with local workers for onshore work." The higher fee is likely to push Indian tech firms to increase offshore projects and rework their business models. Tech firms have already steadily pared back their dependence on H-1B visas since Trump threatened to raise immigration barriers in his first term. A bulk of projects were done remotely at the height of the coronavirus pandemic. All major tech companies have also stepped up local hiring and ramped up so-called delivery centers in the U.S. to service clients. Bloomberg intelligence analysts Angru Grana and Andrew Gerard said companies will be forced to redesign their pricing plans to either offer an expensive onshore consulting model or a much cheaper offshore program where most of the work will be done outside the U.S. The tech service sector has already taken a hit from disappointing earnings for the June quarter. The resultant layoff plans by Bellwether, TCS, and other big firms have added to the gloomy mood. The gauge tracking sector is down more than 15% so far this year compared to 7% gain in the broader Nifty index. The other industries in the red this year are real estate, media, pharma, and the FMCG sectors. However, FMCG businesses are expected to gain from the government's GST cuts with improved outlook from a boost to demand. For now, the H-1B visa fee news is overshadowing the benefits and the boost from GST cuts. Joining us live on this broadcast is Niti Sharma, co-founder and president of Team Lease Ed Tech. Thank you so much for joining us on WION. How will the H-1B visa fee hike affect Indian students and workforce?
Thanks, Susan, for having me on the show today. I think it's going to make a huge impact for us in the short run. Definitely, it's going to be superbly disruptive for the Indian industry. And all the youngsters who are looking at moving into the US. Their whole American dream kind of goes away. So a couple of things will happen. One, we will not have too many junior talented folks moving to the US because companies can only afford that much, to pay for the visa fees. $100,000, fee is not a small amount. It actually gets to about $50 an hour additional rate, which most IT companies, not just the services, Indian services companies, but also the global companies that bring in, global workforce into the US. I think all of them are going to get impacted in a big way. The downside of all of this, and we know that H-1B has traditionally been a bridge to bring in talent, to the US, which has been powering research, innovation, and a lot of leadership growth within American companies. And a large part of that pool had actually moved into the US to study with large organizations, with large institutions. If the H-1B visa fee continues to be what it is right now, my sense is that there'll be many young students who will not want to move to the US to study, which would mean that the pipe to bring in the talented workforce into the US, especially from India, will definitely come down, and it's going to impact us in the short run. The Indian IT industry obviously is seeing this as a disruption. We will have to pivot to different business models, and we'll also probably have to pivot to other countries where the skilled talent would be required in volumes that we're currently passing on to the US.
Yeah, and Niti, getting to the United States is one thing, but for Indian students who ultimately do come here, they're not guaranteed a high paid job in the US after paying this hefty fee. Do you think that this will also lead to Indians abandoning the idea of studying in the United States?
My view, I think this is going to slow down the number of students moving to the US, especially for their master's programs, because immediately after the master's program, if they don't get a high paying job or at least a decent paying job, they'll not be able to pay the loans that they would have otherwise taken back home, and they'll have to move out of the country real soon, because without a job, they'll obviously not be able to stay. My sense is the volumes will start coming down. It'll impact the total number of admissions that are happening currently from India to the US universities.
And going forward, in your opinion, what are the alternatives for companies and employees who are being affected right now and will be affected?
I guess a lot of us are thinking multiple things, right? One is, like you called out initially, do we bring more jobs offshore? Do we ensure that our business models are effective enough so that we are able to get more and more work done in India? Of course, it would mean that many of the young students in India, or even the junior engineers, their whole American dream of going on site will go away. But since COVID, I think that has anyway been diminishing. So, instead of vying to go to a country, if the work can come into India, I guess that's option one. Option two is a lot of American companies already have the global capability centers, or GCCs as we call them here in India, set up over here, across the country. My sense is, I guess, more and more companies will start setting up their back office or their another India office to bring in work into the country. And the third would be diversified geographies. I mean, European countries, LATAM, South American companies, there are Asian countries. There's so many other countries that are probably also looking at hiring talent. And needless to say, I mean, if there is talent that stays in India, I'm sure we should be able to capitalize on their skills, on their talent, and probably do the amount of research and innovation we would have done otherwise outside of the country. Probably do that in India, which will benefit not just the country, but maybe the world.
Okay, well, Niti Sharma, thank you so much for joining us on WION. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you.